Dane, most advice businesses don't have a data problem. They have a thinking problem, right?
If you have shitty data, AI is going to struggle. No one's putting the effort into today's CRM.
Most businesses are sitting on a Goldmine. They're using it as a storage unit.
Yep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to UncommonCents episode 105. It's Craig Kamanis. Oh, no, it says Craig Holmes. It's Craig Kamanis and Dean Holmes here today. We almost changed identity overnight, but no, we are still ourselves. And today we've got a really cool topic, actually. Dean, most advice businesses don't have a data problem. They have a thinking problem, right? We've got CRMs full of client notes, tags, revenue data, meeting history. But if someone asks a simple question like, which 20 clients are most likely to leave in the next 12 months? Crickets, tumbleweed, all of those things. So, Dean, I don't think we're data poor. I actually think we're insight poor. And today, my friend, through talking about CRMs and everything, we're going to fix that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Craig. And just at the outset, I've been thinking about changing CRMs, actually. Believe it or not, I've been influenced by a bright, shiny toy. And I think changing CRMs will solve all of my problems. So that concludes the podcast for today.
Coming today. Dean Holmes said, buy a new CRM. That'll
buy a new CRM, exactly. So look, in all seriousness, I think it is going to be a great conversation today, and we'll dive in. But often we talk to advisors, and the CRM as the technology seems to be the issue or the solution in lots of these things. So the CRM that we're with now doesn't do X, Y, and Z. The CRM over the street does do X, Y, and Z, but we don't know whether it does A, B, and C. And so that's one of the challenges. And so what we want to talk about in a lot of detail today is actually the avoiding the bright, shiny toy and actually making sure that you can turn around and actually say, first and foremost, that you love your current CRM. Okay, Peter Warren, who's listening, of course, on this one, him and I email each other about this particular thing about we want people to love Xplan, or I want you to love Advisor Logic or whoever you're with through the process. And when you love something, you actually look after it, Craig. And so looking after your database is really key as we move into this next phase. Obviously, I get to mention AI, but looking after our data is really important to be able to generate some insights and decisions from your data instead of, as you say, Craig, getting a cryptic question and actually having to go away and think about it and check files and all those kind of things. We should have the answer to that at every point in time.
Dana, CRMs though, do you think they're still just being, and I don't want to try and generalize this, filing cabinet, compliance log, contact list. How many people are still in that boat versus moving to what you've just said, which is decision engine, growth radar, risk detector, that kind of thing?
Oh, like I would say that there's the more by volume, it's probably more in that category than moving forward. And that's because the decision around CRMs somewhat has been licensee imposed over the years. And so when something is licensee imposed, it doesn't get the same attitude within the business that this is a business critical tool that we need to use to help us make decisions going forward. And so we get forced, in inverted commas, to use Xplan. And then by virtue of being forced to do it, we always push up against it and don't lean into the fact that there's a variety of fields in Xplan and we should be trying to fill them out over time. And that the housekeeping that we need to be thinking about with whatever CRM that we have today is that we do need to work on it. So maybe you've got in Advisor Logic have this concept called an Advisor Logic champion in the practice. And that's someone that's actually going to take responsibility for the database, not necessarily a financial advisor, but take responsibility and be that champion. So housekeeping in the CRM, Craig, is all about going, well, do we have all of our data in the right fields? Are we using all the fields to their absolute maximum? And if we can also do that, and then we can think about, which goes back to your intelligence thing, if you can think about extra fields that we should have in in your CRM to collect different pieces of data that maybe makes your business unique, we should be starting to build that into our systems as well. And this is all about giving us the base of where we're at this point in time.
I think you're right. Yeah. What did I hear someone say once? I said, if your CRM isn't telling you what to do next, then it's just an expensive diary. And then I started thinking about it, and you speak to practice principles. And one of the questions I love to throw out there a little bit is, if your CRM disappeared tomorrow, would your business actually slow down, or would it just be a bit annoying? Because it's an interesting test. Is it just a diary system, really? But I love what you were saying there, mate, around data's inconsistent. It's not structured. It's not used in meetings properly, because you're right. It was, I'm not, X-Plan can't do that. I actually think some of the things it can start to do, if, like you were saying, if you look at it, what it's got, and this isn't plugs for any system, it's just what we're used to. I think what I'm starting to see in firms, Dean, is what you were just touching on then. So that next evolution of thinking is coming, where people are going, I now really want to start driving this CRM data. Like, I want to use it for decision-making process. I want to use it to tell me what's going on. And exactly what you just said, a lot of them are going, but I actually have to put that on hold because my data isn't clean, or that section's not filled in, or that's not done. So now there's these projects going on where all the data cleansing is happening and all of the fields are being put in so that you can actually get the data. Because I won't use a term like garbage in, garbage out, because everyone says this with that.
No, but the data organizing and cleansing takes a long time. Like, we should highlight the required commitment to do that, because unfortunately, if you think about any firm actually that's been with a licensee or been in existence for 10 years, their X-Plan, just to keep using that, it could be any, it's really clunky and dirty and full of old clients, and you haven't archived things, you haven't deleted things, you've still got data feeds coming in from Macquarie with bank accounts that aren't clients anymore. There's so many elements of the data that's in your system that we need to clean first and foremost. And then in addition to that, we've got to think about, where is everything? What are we doing once we've got the clean data? And so I look at this about, it's the finding the needle in the haystack, or exception reporting, is that I need my CRM to report back to me when fields are missing on a particular client. So I need to know which client doesn't have their date of birth entered into my system in order to fix. And this is where the data becomes challenging, because we need to be exporting and reporting and analyzing the reports in order to then go back and fix. And so whether that's unfortunately exporting to a spreadsheet or to a dashboard, we're getting this information out of your CRM, analyzing it and going, okay, these 5 clients need to have their categories changed because they pay us higher revenue. These 5 clients need to be archived. These ones are missing data. And that's boring, but it is the first step of what we're about to get onto, of using the data for insights as opposed to using it for a really expensive calendar, which is a great analogy. And I'm now thinking about, if X-Plan wasn't available for a few days in the business, the business would keep going. Like, it's such a good question. So we'll be asking that one of ourselves going forward.
There we go. I can leave. I've given you my question.
Yeah, thank you, Craig.
Thanks. So I guess, Dean, like, what you were getting to then is, what does insight rich actually look like? What do you want to measure in your firm? What do you want to put in place? Some of the things that come to my mind, client risk. So can you look at the database and can it say there's been no contact in 12 months? Revenue's declining. That client's given us no referrals. There's no capturing of a change in their life stage or anything like that. Like, getting that data, that's telling me, geez, is that client actually a risk of leaving because of all of that lack of stuff? But
absolutely. So we can think about it from the risk perspective. So if we go back in our industry history and think about all the times where the industry got things wrong or did things wrong. So go back to fee for no service, for example. If the CRM was being used as we're talking about today, the concept of clients not receiving a review and us receiving revenue would have been a red flag in your report, i.e., we've got a client, we haven't delivered service, those two things. So if you think about one of the things you want from your CRM is you actually want it to highlight all the past risks that the industry has been exposed to, such that we don't repeat those mistakes in the future. So think about that as a risk mitigant. So we're looking at making sure all clients are getting reviews and everyone's getting delivered. Now, even if you've got a thread and you've got a great workflow and all of that thing in Xplan, we still need to check that the start and end happen. So just having a thread is not a guarantee that every client will get a review that gets signed off. It does mitigate, reduce it, but this is where these things go hand in hand. And so if we think about that, if we think about different diversification and product related things, we want to be reporting on what's going on at our client portfolios at a business level. I think often businesses are still a little bit siloed between advisor and client, and advisor and client in the same business, that their portfolios are different and the reporting's not the same. And so housekeeping of reporting means that we're getting information about all of the portfolios so that the business can make decisions with that, as opposed to an individual advisor logging into Hub24 going, I know what I'm going to do with this client. Yep. So we're turning it from individualness in terms of one individual advisor analyzing one portfolio to the business having excellent data across every single portfolio every single week, and then being able to make decisions on what we need to do for any individual client in bulk. Okay. Yep. The idea that, unfortunately, I know that this happens, an advisor logs into Hub24 and looks at a client portfolio to see what's happening is a ridiculous waste of time for the advisor. Okay. But the data can tell us those stories if we've built the data and then built the dashboards to tell us those stories. And so that client leaving one is so interesting, Craig. It's a challenging data point. Although the product providers make it available to you in that who's logged in the most. And so I think a leading indicator of clients being worried about the market or considering leaving is how many times they logged in. And so some clients, you'll have the engineers that will log in every day, disregard those ones. But there's a subset of that clients on that list that have logged in every day for the last 2 weeks. They're worried about the market or they're going to leave. And so that's a data point. That one's hard to match up with your CRM, but this is where once you get your housekeeping done, you can start to think about these additional pieces of data and find insights in those small things to help your client.
And I think you're right, Dean. So everything we're talking about here is really how to turn your CRM into the gold mine, right? And so I had to think about this because, you know, what we love now, Dean and I get these topics randomly generated for us thanks to the great work, the team behind us at TWN. And it's almost exciting to go, that's what we're talking about this week. We live in it every day, all of these things we're talking about, but it's exciting. That's the topic for this week. And so I was sitting there on a flight home, actually, and I was like, if someone said to me, you got to turn your CRM into a gold mine kind of thing, like, how would I start at that? And so I came up with maybe just pick 5 questions that actually matter. For example, the 5 could be, number 1, who is at risk? And we did a longer example of that just then. Number 2, where is growth? Number 3, who are our ideal clients? Number 4, who refers? And then number 5, which kind of switches internal, and we might get there a little bit later, not using it for clients, but using it for what's going on inside the business. Where are we losing time? And so I looked at those questions. They might not be the perfect 5, Dean, or what, but it's a starting platform that if you were sitting there going, how do I turn this CRM into a gold mine? Maybe they're 5 good questions to start with. And then you've got to reverse engineer from there, of course. And there's a lot of work to go after those questions. But rather than having a blank sheet of paper, that might just be a little bit of a map to get started.
Absolutely. And the way I think about the answers, and I think about Xplan as the example, is that Xplan have built in the widgets that probably everyone knows, that the widgets can tell us a story, but perhaps they're not as nice as what we want. And then we know there's some providers out there that have built dashboards on top of the data. NetWealth and Hub24 both own a data company now. Surprise, data is pretty important. That turns the data from Xplan and on your systems into dashboards. And I like thinking in I like to think in dashboards. This is what we build as well in terms of telling stories with our data. And that's something we've got someone in our business that literally that's her entire job, is to take the data and tell stories with it. And then once you pose those questions, Craig, the dashboard should answer those questions for us every single week. Okay. And this is the difference. If you went into a large established company, they have a variety of dashboards that are telling them what's going on with their operations. So you go into the Qantas Operations Center, which is this huge room with screens everywhere. But essentially, it's a series of dashboards that are giving the people the most up-to-date information to make decisions of. Okay. And so the data's there. It's been manipulated in such a point so that it can give the dashboard that then allows the professionals to come in and make those decisions. And so that's what we want. So if I pick, what was question number 3 on your list there, Craig?
Who are our ideal clients?
Who are our ideal clients? And so when you think about that, you go, I'm going to design a dashboard that's going to rank our clients to work out our ideal clients. Now, we all know our ideal clients on terms of some of the issues, but when you start to pull out the information, you may find that clients that are paying you the highest revenue might actually be calling you too much or dragging you down or distracting the team and things like that. So it's actually pulling in a variety of pieces of data to tell the story about our ideal clients. And so then you might be actually getting, I'm getting time taken from Xplan, I'm getting meetings organized, I'm getting all this information onto a dashboard. And so I can find the sweet spot. Clients want to see me two times a year. They never call, they do this, and I reach out to them 2 other times a year, and that's my ideal client as a result. But we're using the dashboard to tell us that story, as opposed to the gut feel, always trying to go, the highest revenue is the highest ideal client.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the dashboard, because I know I personally built one in our CRM, and it made me feel so much lighter, because every day I had 5 key metrics that I wanted to see, and it was updating. It was almost updating live. If someone took something out and put something in, a refresh of that, you've got it at your fingertips. So I know you've been implementing that, Dean, but do you, like, I don't get a sense that's actually picked up a lot through advice businesses yet.
No, I would say that there's not building dashboards is the goal, I think, because it's what the dashboard can do is that it can pull through data from variety of sources. And this is our challenge in our industry at this point in time, is that we have information on our clients in multiple locations. And so that is the CRM, that is email, SharePoint, Hub24, or product providers overall, etc. Maybe even a filing cabinet or 2. I've seen a compactor or 2 still within the 2026 calendar year. I've seen a compactor. For those that don't know, please Google it. It will make you.
Sliding.
Yeah, the old sliding one. It's worse when you get your finger caught in the compactor, Craig, when you're sliding and not paying attention. But it's hopefully that's an injury that won't occur going forward. But dashboards allow you to tackle that problem of bringing all information from a variety of different sources to one location. So you can bring files in SharePoint and data in Xplan to one dashboard to get you that result. And so that's important or interesting to me, because what I've realized is that you can't save Microsoft Word files or Excel spreadsheets really easily in Xplan. And scans of documents don't always go into Xplan and things like that. And so you will have 2 places where you store data, which is a challenge. And the challenge is to overcome it by working towards essentially dashboards in order to get that result.
Yeah. So Dean, I hinted on it earlier, and I think this is probably more for larger, as businesses get larger. But so we've talked a lot about this, the CRM and the dashboards and stuff for client stuff. But what about take this to the operations of the business? Like, how long are things taking? How many people are in client meetings? How many people, like, that kind of data as well? Where do you sit with that?
Yeah, so a concept that we've implemented is we have an advisor scorecard or an advisor dashboard first and foremost. And so this is really helpful in terms of thinking about your advisor efficiency, but just where people should be spending their time. And so we look at advisors going, actually, their best use of time is in meetings. And so one of the things that we're tracking is the number of meetings that advisors are having. We're not tracking the length of the meetings, although obviously there is a goal to make them efficient and therefore shorter, but that's for good client outcomes as well. But so the dashboard can track the number of client meetings that you're having. And that's a good piece of information at the business level, Craig, to say advisor A is having 6 meetings a week, advisor B is having 9 meetings a week. What is the goal number for my business in terms of meetings per week? And the advisor that's below, we've got to help them get more clients or bring work forward. That's a concept that we don't always do. If you've got a client that's due for a review in April, but you don't have enough client meetings in March, bring it forward.
Yeah.
Go and get it and bring it forward to hit the ideal number of meetings. But you can't do that, Craig, unless A, you've set a KPI for the business to go, I want to have 6 meetings a week. Then B, you've got to have a system that's quite robust to track those meetings per week. And then you've got to assess the data over time to understand what the data is telling you over time. And it's that last bit where if you look at the data for 3 weeks and you're like, this guy's having 8 meetings a week, happy days, it's not enough time. So we have to build it and then monitor it over time to see where that tells us. Now, meetings is a really easy thing to talk about. Documents produced, like how many ROAs or SOAs and things like that do we produce out of the business? Those things are really easy. Going to the extent where we look at each individual task and we track the time on each task, that's theoretically possible. Like Explain does do time tracking and things like that. Not everyone does that. I don't do that either. That's a challenging one to measure each task and the time that it takes for each task every time. However, it is a good exercise to go through, even if you're just trying to benchmark the time that it does take, just to set expectations more than track it from that perspective. But once again, the internal dashboards about how the pulse of the business is really important.
It is, mate. And I was fortunate enough to meet a firm who, and I think when they downloaded to me how they were using their CRM, and now this is a large firm, right? So they've got resources and stuff. So much actually, but I think you mentioned this earlier, they've actually resourced a full-time engineer for their CRM into the business to keep updating it, enhancing and stuff. But the conversation I had with them, what they knew about their business so quickly, like the way they've set this CRM up, even to the point when, like, they've made it easy, but if someone's doing some admin on a client, they can click a start and a stop button and it can capture time and all sorts of stuff, which allows management and leadership in the business to go, are we charging enough? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Like all these levers, and they've got the data so they can actually make exact, precise decisions on it. But not only that, when I'm talking to the advisor in the business who's employed by the business and I say you're not charging enough, and they go, oh, I think we are, I can go have a look at this. Here's how much time has gone into this. Here's how much expense has gone into that. And we're breaking even on that relationship. So it made a massive difference. And it blew me away, to be honest. But I think all of this, we're talking about getting this right, mate. It all ends up coming to commercial payoff, doesn't it?
Yes. At the end of the day, we're trying to use this to manage risk. So we're learning about all the clients within our business in totality and managing to the risks. Do we have the information? Where are the clients at? Are they going to leave? So we've got a whole risk reason why we want to do it. And then the second, which actually is the title of today's talk, is the goldmine of the opportunities that come from the data set as a result. And so this is the dashboard will give us the goldmine of our client situation and therefore how we can leverage it. And I think in the future, it's only going to get better with the addition of AI on top of really good data. Okay. you have shitty data, AI is going to struggle to understand the nuances between Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, who are divorced now. You need to have the rigor of a database so that AI can look at your data professionally in the silo of the client. But the idea that AI is going to help you leverage your database going forward is going to be much more personalized in the future. So every file note, every meeting, every email has been organized so that you get a preparation for your next meeting based on the entire history of the client. You don't have to remember everything. It's just going to be organized there for you over time. And so when a client tells you something 5 years ago about what they want to do in retirement, that piece of information is so important. Every advisor that's learnt that over the last 5 years about their clients, we've not put it anywhere, Craig.
No.
Client says they want to go to Italy, but they might just go, I want to go to Italy when I retire. You go, yeah. But most clients will have a very clear picture of what the things that they want to do. And in the past, maybe the advisors committed that to memory, maybe scratched it down on a little note, but then it's gone into the system and it's lost. Good data and AI will actually pull that out in the future. The CRM will know the client's retiring because we've written a file note or something like that. And the CRM with AI and good data will match up what they said 5 years ago, and you get to be a hero because you pulled these two pieces of information out at the same time saying, remember when you said 5 years ago that you wanted to do this in retirement, this is the picture that you're now achieving. And how amazing is that?
And mate, the very best business will send that client a little pack that has pasta and sauce and something else in it. It's almost time for Italy, get yourself prepared, right? Because then those random acts of kind of stuff starts to blow people's mind. We've actually talked about planned randomness before too, but you know, it's this is what
absolutely
do.
Yes. So the organization steps are really important. So the thing that Peter Warren sends out an email every Friday, a couple of Fridays ago, you can go and find this. He spoke about the challenge of CRMs in that CRMs are going to be significantly changing over the next 2 years. And he highlighted, which I was joking at the start, he highlights that the cost of changing CRMs, Craig, is not in the price of the CRM. It's all in the implementation and change management within the team. Okay. And so that's the funny bit about this, because no one's putting the effort into today's CRM, but they think by moving to a new CRM, they're magically going to put in the effort that's required to get that CRM database up to speed. It requires the same effort to get your new database up to this quality as it does your existing. And so if you're not budgeting and preparing for the work that it goes in general to updating your CRM, then we can't do it. Okay. So Peter's highlighting, which I agree, in that there's going to be a lot of change in these systems over the next 2 years, and such that focusing on just getting your data right is a better time investment this week than looking at bright shiny toys and going, that's my savior. Because even if you go over there, you still got to do the same work in relation to getting your data organized. Awesome
insights, mate. And at 30 minutes, here we go again. Like we're getting better at filling these times, but that's a great way to finish. But so I think, mate, as we close, most businesses are sitting on a Goldmine. They're using it as a storage unit. The shift becomes really simple. Stop asking what data do we have. Start asking what decisions should this data drive. Because what you've just highlighted today through all your examples of things is the real value of your CRM isn't actually what it stores. It's going to be what it tells you to do next.
Amazing.
That was Uncommon Sense episode 105. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, or your walk, wherever you're listening.